Welcome to the Bird's Eye View. I am the WarDuck, and as always, I'm here with the lovely Mr. Crow.
Hey, everybody, good to see you.
All right, so as always, California is in the news for doing something stupid, or saying something stupid, and their latest thing, or both, yeah, and their latest thing was, 2033, we're gonna ban all gas cars, only electric cars from here on out, and in the next 13 years, we'll just have electric cars. By the way, don't charge your electric car if you have one right now, because our electric grid, just hold off on that. But in 2035, everybody will have an electric car that we won't be able to charge them then either. Hold on a minute.
Yeah, see, those were the things that, it's like, so that got caused by the heat wave that was going on, and you think that a heat wave's not going to still happen in the future?
Or because of, right? Isn't their whole thing global warming, and it's just going to get hotter and hotter and hotter? So, okay.
I guess they're, I don't know. I assume here that maybe everybody was just using AC at the time.
That it would stress the energy grid.
They were not able to keep up with the energy bandwidth. And what's the first thing to sacrifice? Your car.
Right, but that's the whole thing. It's not like electric cars are mainstream in California. It's not like 25% of Californians have an electric car. It's not like 10% of Californians have an electric car. It's not. It's probably.
I don't even.
I would guess it's probably 2 or 3% at best have electric cars in California, and that's too much to stress the grid in California. That's asinine. Simply asinine. Did Google tell you, Mr. Crow?
I'm looking it up, but I'm not getting the answer that I want. Like they're saying nationally there are about 2.64 million. That means California accounts for 43%, but that's 43% of the nation.
So
I'm not getting the answer.
So California.
Oh, here we go. It reached 4% in 2017.
Okay.
Of California.
So they might be probably 5 or 6% of Californians own an electric car or vehicle. Okay. Now, they want to do away with gas vehicles. So if you're telling the 5% they can't charge their electric car, what happens when you're at 25% or 50%? Right? Like, it'll be like the water. On Monday and Tuesday, you can charge your electric car, but on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you can't. And then only if you live in this zip code on Saturday.
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
That zip code on Sunday, oh my God. Just dumb. Just dumb.
I think, especially with what happened with COVID, how everybody was able to all of a sudden, jobs prior to COVID were, no, you cannot work from home. That's just not how we work. That's not how we do things. So all of a sudden, you're not allowed to come in the office. Oh, you're now allowed to work from home. They found ways. We're going to have to find more ways to do this and almost more permanently.
Well,
I don't know.
And like the statement here is reducing dangerous carbon emissions and moving away from fossil fuels. It's like, okay, do you know how, we made a video about this before, about making electric cars is a very super dirty process. And the batteries, once they're done and used up, which California has warehouses of electric batteries that they can't do anything with because the infrastructure to recycle them does not exist yet.
Does not exist, yeah.
So, not only does Newsom says $10 billion the state was investing in making transition would make it easier and cheaper for all Californians to purchase electric vehicles. The problem is that's not talking about the infrastructure overhaul you have to have.
I was just going to say, you're going to have to overhaul all
of
what currently exists.
Because your electrical grid, your recycle centers, the all of the electrical, the EV car mechanics, right? It's not, because that's not the mainstream right now, and Tesla doesn't even have a dealership. So there's a lot of questions that California's going to have to answer in a hurry, and they're going to have to dump a super amount of money in. And I don't think they can overhaul their infrastructure by 35% in 2026 that they're expecting. I don't think they can.
No, I don't think it's possible. This is something I've been trying to look at, even where I am, here in Utah, and we have there's a lot of Teslas and electric vehicles here and there. I think more than what there should be. Just my opinion, but the grid alone, the roads and all that stuff, they're just not optimized for what an electric would be. And not even that. I feel like it even goes further than that. Well, I don't think we as humans
here's the other part of that, right? Is gas. Okay, let's say gas is $5, right? There's built-in taxes to the gas that go toward road maintenance and other stuff, right?
Yep.
If you have all these electric vehicles, they're going to get that money somewhere, and they're just going to charge you by the mile.
That's something that came up as a discussion here in Utah, because a lot of people, for example, it was a bonus for people in Salt Lake City, like downtown Salt Lake City, if you have an electric car. And this was way back in the day when they're kind of first new-ish, and you got free parking. You didn't have to pay for parking, so you got that kind of bonus. Plus, they don't pay the same kind of road tax that like you were mentioning. There's taxes and some things in the gas that go towards road maintenance. Electric cars don't pay that.
Yeah, and so now they're going to have to find a way to recoup that money once they start moving over. So that $5 to $7 of gas that you're paying out in California, that money's got to come from somewhere. They got to make up that road maintenance money somewhere. So they're just going to start, I guess, charging you by the mile, and then every time you have to renew your car, you have to go and get a certified a mileage check, and then they'll tax you based on that. I'm guessing something similar, because there's no way they can allow all the cars on the road and not have the money intake to fix it. They just can't. So there's going to be that. And maybe it's built into the charging stations they're going to do, but if you go home and you charge your car, that's not really there. So again, it's going to have to go back to when because California, you have to go and have your car inspected every time you register it or whatever the hell, right? So now it's going to be, okay, what does your mileage read now? Oh, okay, well, you're going to owe the state this much because you drove 100,000 miles in your electric car and didn't pay any freaking road tax. I don't know what they're going to do, but they're going to have to do something, and that money has to come from somewhere. And then
I think they'll just change the price of electricity when it really comes down to it.
Well, but I don't know, because if you do that, then you're upping the people that have regular houses and stuff. But I mean, what does California care? I don't know. It's gonna be very. And so the transition from this topic is to the next part of this headline of what Arizona can learn from California's inability to keep the lights on, because it's very much connected. And this is where they talk about the California infrastructure, because it's not just the electrical grid. The California infrastructure as a whole is outdated, old, and all needs renovated and replaced. And what they were talking about, how there was an algae bloom in San Francisco Bay, apparently, and it was killing lots of fish, and all the scientists, of course, blamed it on climate change, like that. They always, because California, climate change, oh God, it's killing all our fish and blah blah blah. Well, guess what? Yeah. It was urine and fecal matter dumped into the bay thanks to San Francisco's woefully out of date wastewater treatment system. Whoops.
Wow.
So because
All the fingers pointed came right back at you.
Yep. Yeah. And so because they spend all their tax money on other stuff instead of infrastructure, the rest of their infrastructure is failing, right? The electrical grid, the wastewater system, the water treatment plants, all those things are getting old and starting to fail, and they're not being replaced and updated, and that's causing.
Yeah, they're not being updated.
And so California themselves, they don't have their own water. They ship in a bunch of their own water, and they ship in a bunch of their electricity. So not only
they're not really a self. What is that? A self
sufficient.
Yeah, they don't manage their own. They because I know that we provide, like, and I say we, Utah, we provide some water to them. They get electricity from Arizona. I don't know what Nevada does for them, but I'm sure they do something.
Well, Nevada doesn't have anything else. I mean, they probably are giving them electricity from the Hoover Dam for as long as they can, but
probably
that's
getting scarce too, though.
Yeah. In fact, I just saw one of their water companies went bankrupt because they can no longer provide or something like that.
Oh man.
The straw that they had that they released or whatever no longer works. So Arizona is looking at this and they're looking ahead because they are smarter than Arizona, or they're smarter than California, and they want to stay ahead of the curve, right, with their infrastructure and stuff. And so what they are talking about is different types of reactors, newer reactors, carbon-free energy with less expensive and even higher safety standards than the old school nuclear reactors. They such as sodium-cooled fast reactors, very high temperature reactors, and molten salt reactors promise efficiency power production for decades to come. These are the things that we're going to have to turn back to maintain the sufficient power levels that are being required for the increasing electric world that we live in. California is struggling right now to cope with that. They haven't updated. They're forward looking at all the stuff they want to do, but they're not like, hey, let's get all the infrastructure here and then we'll do this stuff. They're like, let's do this stuff, and then we're like, oh god, our infrastructure. And so it's always lagging behind, right? And that's Arizona's trying to avoid that, and at least people are looking at that. I saw another thing about because of all the water problems throughout the country, right? Lake Mead, Lake Powell, all those things. Eventually, probably Arizona and California. That they were talking about making a pipeline from the Mississippi to Lake Powell and Lake Mead, because they were saying that the excess amount of water due to flooding and stuff off of the Mississippi could fill Lake Powell and Lake Mead in like a year or two.
Wow.
You just fell behind you with your Jason mask coming to get you.
Oh. Sorry.
That was awesome. All I saw was Jason behind me. I was like, what the? That was rad. So that's the thing is getting the infrastructure up to par with where you want to be with your electrical stuff, and that's a significant problem right now. But like I said, they were talking about if they built a pipeline to Lake Powell, they could fill Lake Powell and Mississippi with runoff water from the Mississippi and fill it up in like a year or two.
That's a lot. So, and all of that water does not go to the Gulf of, is it the Gulf? The Gulf of Mexico, right?
I don't know. I don't know where they were talking about instituting the pipeline at. I just remember reading it a little bit because they talked about the amount of water that they always end up having to fight with floods and stuff. And so if they just used this certain amount of water that wasn't detriment to the Mississippi, that they could fill those two lakes, help everybody else out, and it would help them out because they could deal with the floods and stuff easier.
Now they wouldn't have to deal with the floods, and now we wouldn't have to deal with the droughts.
Right.
It's a win-win. This brings up like a topic that I don't want to say, you know, like my family has these awesome topics or anything, but this was something that got discussed one time around the kitchen table. We were talking about how, you know, there's more and more people on the earth, and that's why like, this is my theory, right? I think that's why there's also a lot more global warming, because there's more people being used, you know, the resources more being this and that. And so, but because of that, there's no more, this leads into the next thing, right? I don't want to get into a lot of that detail, but there's no more resources coming to the earth, to the world. Like, we have the same amount of water that we have always had, and we always will. You're not creating new water that's coming somewhere.
Well, that's not true.
How's that not true? You have water. Water doesn't disappear from the earth, and the earth doesn't magically create more water.
Well, the earth does create more water. It's a cyclic system through water vapor in the atmosphere. Now, if we lose the atmosphere, then we no longer have water. So what you're specifically talking about is clean, potable water.
Yes,
right.
Clean water.
That is where the cyclical system can only go so far. But the earth does create new water all the time, and it does lose water all the time.
I understand. It loses water. It evaporates, goes to the cloud, and then it comes, you know, it goes atmosphere. But then it comes back. So we haven't lost any water. You're not losing water, you're not making water. The molecules are still there.
I don't know.
We're debating on this now.
I know.
but no. But that's what I was getting to.
Go ahead.
You know what I was getting to is we have more people. There goes I'm falling down over here. We have more people on the earth.
Jason's trying to get you.
Yeah, he pretty much is my whole. I'll turn this off for you later when the green screen's not off, and I'll let you see how I'm gonna finish this one. I may have to buy a new thing. Anyway, but yeah, we've got more people on the earth. We've got more people using the resources, and so I wonder if we're reaching almost that cap, right?
Well,
and there's that brings up that conspiracy where
but the thing is the earth itself, right, has gone through these before we were here, right? Look at the Sahara Desert.
Oh yeah,
the Sahara Desert used to be a jungle oasis.
And I live in the ocean, basically. Like, it used to be Lake Bonneville, and it took up multiple states.
Right, and so the earth goes through these type of things anyway. Now, Are we hurrying it along? I don't know. Maybe, probably.
That I don't know.
But the earth kind of does this thing. It just shifts around and you know that, and the oceans aren't going away, right?
No.
They're actually talking about the oceans getting bigger.
Because because this is following them now. Because the ice.
Okay.
Whatever.
So water that evaporates from the sea rains inland, creating fresh water.
Correct. But it was water we already had.
Right. But the thing is even if we use it, we get rid of it.
We get rid of it, and it goes back.
And it just goes through the same cycle, right? So
larger seas.
So do larger seas mean more rain different somewhere else? Are we going to see with larger seas that the Sahara Desert will start raining and become and then somewhere else become a desert? Like, that seems to be how the earth has kind of done it, right? It's this place was a forest and now it's a desert. Now this place is a forest and it used to be a desert. And it just kind of moves itself around.
I remember when I was very young, but here in Utah in the 80s, I want to say it was like 86, we had a huge flood where the Great Salt Lake was flooding, and I remember I was a young kid at the time, so it's like I wasn't able to get to a friend's house which was around the bend of the mountain because the Great Salt Lake had cut off the way to get to it.
I remember in Oregon had a huge
back
flood back 92 or so.
What?
Oregon had a huge flood like 92. I remember watching people like float, or with their kayaks chasing their hot tub that's floating down out down the river.
Yeah, but we're hurting now. Where I don't say we're hurting, but the Great Salt Lake is recessed so much that we've got people who I remember that I'm going out there and visiting them, where I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is where we used to, go out here and
same with Nevada too. That whole area out there is like what used to be lakefront property is now just like this big dirt spot. But my thing is like, where's that water? Where did that water go?
Somewhere. Yeah, I agree.
Right, it just went somewhere else, and so the places that are getting hotter and drier, where's getting wetter, right? Because that's got to be the trade-off somewhere. Doesn't necessarily mean it's in the States or whatever, but that trade-off somewhere.
That's what I'm finding. Yeah, so this brings me back to what you were saying though about the Mississippi. Like you're just rerouting the water, the resources that are there. Then that's interesting.
So anyway,
I like the concept.
We got way off topic here. This was a very much about California being stupid and their infrastructure and the plans going forward, at least for other states, to try to cope with this kind of things that are going on. Well, leave a comment. What do you think about California? Saying that they're going to do all this electric stuff, but yet they're already saying that you can't charge your cars and stuff like that. Let us know what you think. Much love, all.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next time. I'm going to go fix this now.